Live from Fargo and serving you on TV, online, and on the go. This is Valley News Live at 5.
It's just scary because we trust them to help us raise our kids because we work full time, and you know, our kids' safety is the most important thing in the whole world.
A man who works at a daycare in Grand Forks is under investigation after allegations surfaced that he was sexually assaulting a child. A few parents reached out to our whistleblower hotline saying they are concerned for the safety of their children. Valley News Team's Maddie Gelseth found out if this man was still working with kids during the investigation.
A few parents I spoke to didn't want to be identified, but told me they pulled their children out of Little Miracles daycare.
It changes the course of your life, and I can't risk it. It's not worth a risk.
This is because of a letter they got last week that says an employee at the daycare is under assessment in regards to sexually abusing a child. Another employee says this man has still been in contact with children and was not put on leave until Tuesday of this week.
It's not being taken seriously by the daycare, so then, you know, who knows if something did happen, then our kids are continued to be placed at risk while this all plays out, and I don't think that's okay.
Another parent agreed, saying the judgment call that Little Miracles made was wrong, and this man should be on leave until the assessment is completely over for the safety of every child. And it's putting parents on edge, worried to put their kids in daycare again.
I always trusted that if there was a severe allegation like this, it would just make sense that the person would be on leave until it's cleared. But now I'm realizing maybe that's not the case. So can I trust any daycare?
Grand Forks County Social Services says that decision is completely up to the employer, if they should put the person under investigation on leave or not until the assessment is over. And the owner of Little Miracles said the #1 priority of the daycare is the safety and well-being of every child. In Grand Forks, Maddie Gelseth, Valley News Live.
The people we spoke with today tell us the man was on the schedule to work today, but when he showed up, or rather when we showed up, his name was removed. As mentioned, this story came to us through our whistleblower hotline. If you need help uncovering fraud and corruption in your community, call us 701-237-6576 and leave your tip. A member of our investigative team will get on the case and go to work to expose the truth. We still can't get rid of the cold air. The temperatures out there are brutal. Hutch, dangerous wind chills now, even worse overnight, though.
Indeed, it's very cold out there, but the wind's starting to taper off, and even with light winds, we're expecting dangerous wind chills across the valley. Speaking of wind, the highest gusts that came with our overnight blizzard happened close to the midnight hour for many of us, and in Grand Forks it was last night at 11. 56-mile-per-hour gusts there, 51-mile-per-hour gusts in Fargo, blowing walls of snow. Now, with what little wind and cold air, we have a wind chill advisory for most of our area. The Arrowhead of Minnesota and a wind chill warning. Skies are clear across the region. Actual air temperatures are already in the teens below, so it's been a very frigid day across the entire region. Winds 5 to 15 miles per hour still from the northwest, so conditions are improving, but temperatures are not. We'll be in the teens below zero by bedtime under crystal clear skies, and wind chills will approach 45 below for some during the overnight. Look at that, by midnight in Grand Forks, almost 20 below zero.
It's a little shocking. It will be to the system when you head outside.
It's going to be a very cold night, and it looks like it's here to stay. We'll talk about that in a bit.
Thanks, Hutch. Native American elder Nathan Phillips was on the Today Show this morning. Phillips came into the public eye when a video of him praying and beating a drum while surrounded by high school students went viral. But now there are questions surrounding his military service. Phillips says he served in the Marine Corps Reserves during the Vietnam War, but never went to Vietnam. Officials say Phillips actually served from June 1972 to May 1976, where he spent much of his enlistment in California, did not deploy, and left the service as a private after disciplinary issues.
I went to boot camp. I stayed there. That Marine Corps was a reservist guy. So I stayed in the reserves for a couple years. That was during the time of the American Indian movement and the AIM trials, and there was a lot of things going on during those years. And the Vietnam War was still going on.
In an article from the Washington Post, it states from October 1972 to February 1973, Phillips was classified as an anti-tank missile man, a kind of infantryman. Phillips then became a refrigerator technician for the majority of his service. The Grand Forks Police Department is still searching for a sex offender who failed to register with police. 32-year-old Jordan Eno is wanted by the department. Authorities believe he is either in Grand Forks or Fargo. Anyone with information about him is urged to call police. A man from Hawley, Minnesota has been sentenced to serve 15 years in jail for sexually assaulting a woman. Court documents say in December 2017, 29-year-old Alex Cookson was allowed to leave jail for work release. The victim says while he was on work release, Cookson forced her to perform sexual acts on him. Court documents list other charges against him, including DWI, traffic violation, and malicious punishment of a child. A company that donated $25,000 to a reward fund for the return of Jamie Kloss is now giving her the money. Jamie escaped captivity nearly 3 months after disappearing from her Barron, Wisconsin home. Investigators say 21-year-old Jake Patterson killed Jamie's parents and then kidnapped her last October. Jamie's parents were longtime employees of the Jenny O turkey plant in Barron. Now that Jamie is safe, the company says it is working with law enforcement to donate its share of a reward to Jamie. The votes to reopen the government, one with border wall funding and the other without, failed in the Senate this afternoon, meaning the shutdown continues. But Senator Kevin Cramer says despite that, he sees progress.
Looking for maybe middle ground, maybe, some things that I want that they don't want and things they want that I don't necessarily want. We're actually having, I think, a good negotiation, and I'm confident that we'll break this logjam soon.
Cramer is optimistic the shutdown will be resolved soon. There's no end in sight to the government shutdown as the U.S. Senate fails to pass either of dueling bills to get federal workers back on the job. A Republican-sponsored bill that funded President Trump's border wall received 50 yes votes, far short of the 60 needed for passage. The Senate then voted on a Democratic bill, which has already passed the House, to fund the government through February 8th. That bill included no Trump wall money. So the partial government shutdown, as we just mentioned, continues on this day, 34, with workers missing their second paycheck tomorrow. A House bill that would only require sports cars to have one number plate on their car has passed by a vote of 67 to 25. A representative for Bill 1180 says sports cars are specifically designed without a license plate on the front, and owners would have to drill holes in the front to mount one. No one spoke against the bill. It will now go to the Senate. A new study released today ranks Minnesotans among the worst drivers in the country. The study put Minnesota 6th on its list. Drivers in Maine were crowned the worst in the nation. The study used data from each state that included the number of accidents, speeding tickets, DUIs, citations, and fatalities. Motorists in Michigan were found to be the best drivers, followed by Mississippi and Oklahoma. They made it and made it big. In fact, as the saying goes, they crushed it. For the first time, the Salvation Army's Red Kettle campaign cracked the $1 million mark. That eclipses the campaign goal by more than $200,000. The total raised this year is more than $1.1 million. An anonymous donation of $250,000 is what pushed the campaign over the top, and then some. Salvation Army Major Jerry O'Neill, as you can probably imagine, is ecstatic. This is his first Red Kettle campaign in Fargo-Moorhead.
There is a great system of social service agencies, and the Salvation Army obviously has a little bit of priority for me, but there are a lot of great organizations and services that serve our community. We want to be a part of that.
O'Neill says he's very grateful to the community for its continued support, and in particular for the volunteers who racked up more than 7,900 hours ringing those bells. It's